lot of phone calls with people asking questions about the assembly procedure or the wiring on the stators. This is a Honda EV6010 water-cooled generator that I'm rebuilding. I've got the engine assembled, the cooling system assembled, basically everything except for the generator or the stator and rotor. First thing to do when you get ready to put a new stator in, after you get the old one out, is inspect the oil pump. This is the oil pump right here. It's clearly visible. And if you see any oil leaking down through here, this is a good time to go ahead and repair it. If you look in the earlier videos for the long block engine assembly, you'll see how the oil pump is assembled. You'll see all the parts involved. And that's the easiest way to do it, is just to watch, I believe it's video 15 and 16 or somewhere in there, but if you watch the long block videos you can see that. The next step is you've got an end bell that goes onto the end of the engine. There's a dowel pin that goes right here and a dowel pin that goes right here. Make certain that those dowel pins are in place. If those dowel pins are missing, you can have the stator shift back and forth over the rotor, and if the stator hits the rotor, it will destroy both of them. This is the bell housing that goes on the end of the engine. I've already placed the hoses in. This is a drain in case you've got a float bowl leak of some form. It's got a hose attached so the gasoline will not leak on the stator. This hose goes to the float bowl drain. This hose goes to the float bowl vent. I've got both of the dowels installed. One is right here, one is right here. Putting the end housing on is pretty straightforward. Just route the hoses where they come out under the oil filter. Make sure that the hoses aren't pinched or caught anywhere when you slide the end housing into place. The housing is held on by 5 8mm bolts. 2 of them are longer than the other 3. The 2 longer bolts go in the 1 o'clock position and the 5 o'clock position. The 3 shorter ones go into the other holes. that holds the soundproof cover in place. This bolt is slightly tapered. Do not confuse it with any of the airbox mounting bolts. And it attaches the small angle bracket that goes to the soundproof cover. Next step is the wiring harness. Right next to the wires that go for the rotary solenoid for the choke goes a bail clip. It'll look like this. Holds the wiring harness exactly where it belongs. And the other wire clip goes in the front, right behind the soundproof cover. Next step will be to go ahead and install the hose that goes to the float bowl drain and the hose that goes to the float bowl vent tube. And just snug up the clips. The hoses come out right over here, right below the oil filter. As soon as you get it ready to install it in the vehicle, you'll push them through this slot. If you push them through earlier, you run the risk of pinching the hoses. And if the hose that goes to the float bowl tube gets pinched shut, the generator won't run for more than about 2 to 3 seconds. Next step is to go ahead and take the stator, which is this. This is a rewound stator assembly. Take the end housing, make sure that there are no cracks along the bottom. If somebody has used a bit of a Neanderthal method of getting the end housing apart, they may actually crack this housing. They're not on there that tight. They just have to be gently, emphasis on gently, tapped out from this end, and they'll slide right out nicely. This is probably as good a place as any to take a break.